Before I even got to camp, before the thought of NYSC, I was already stressed out. Let me take you back to where this whole thing actually started. Because the NYSC experience doesn't begin on the bus. It begins with a website, the registration. So here's the thing. Before NYSC can mobilize you, your name has to appear in 3 lists. I checked the 3 list. My name was there. Now confirmed, it was time to actually register. And because nothing in this country lets you do things from the comfort of your couch, I had to go to a cyber cafe in Lagos at peak hours. I walked in, sat down at a computer that had seen better decades, and I opened the NYSC registration portal. The connection was slow. The chair was wobbling. The man next to me was watching a full film at full volume, but I was focused. I uploaded my documents, filled in every detail, and I submitted. Done. Registered. Official. Then I went home and I waited. After 2 weeks, my call-up number had dropped. After a few days, my call-up letter was there. The state on that letter? Abia. I, Udo, a full Lagos girl, was going to Abia. I sat down. I read it again. I stood up. I sat back down. My mom walked in. I showed her. She looked at me. She looked at the letter. And without saying a single word, she walked to the kitchen and started heating the pan for puff puff. That was my send-off. Okay, so I survived 3 weeks in a place where the alarm goes off at 4 a.m. Soldiers are literally screaming at you before you've had 1 sip of water. And the only thing standing between you and breakfast is a parade in the hot sun. Welcome to NYSC orientation camp. And honestly, it was an experience. If you're about to go to camp, or you're just curious what the whole NYSC thing is actually like, stay right here. Because I'm giving you the unfiltered truth. The funny parts, the hard parts, the parts nobody talks about. Let's get into it. So for context, NYSC stands for National Youth Service Corps. It's a mandatory 1-year program every Nigerian graduate goes through. And before your actual service year starts, you spend 3 weeks at an orientation camp. 3 weeks. No phones, well, limited phones. No leaving, just you, hundreds of other corpers, and whatever God has planned for you. I got deployed to Abia State, Umuna Bende specifically. And the journey to get there was an adventure before the adventure even started. I wasn't going alone. I had a friend in Aba. Shout out to her, she's a real one. And she said, come and stay with me the night before. We'll sort everything out. So I packed a small bag, entered a bus from Lagos, and began the road to Aba. Now, if you've done Lagos to Aba by road, you already know. If you haven't, it's an experience. Hours of road, and more road. I slept. I woke up. I stared out the window at bush. I slept again. We arrived in Aba and the heat welcomed me personally. My friend already had a list ready. Tomorrow we go to the market, she said. And we did. We went and I bought everything a corper could need. Toiletries, provisions, a mosquito net, a bucket, a padlock, slippers, a small torch, everything on the list. And then, because I have never been able to pack light in my life, I also threw in 2 bottles of groundnut. That night, I packed it all into my bag, laid out my mattress, set my alarm for an obscene hour, and tried to sleep. Tomorrow was the day. The next morning, we went to the park and I got on the bus to Umuna Bende. Fellow coppers with their bags, we looked like the world's most anxious camping group. The ride was this mix of people chatting nervously, sharing snacks, comparing call-up letters. Instant bonding over collective uncertainty. We arrived at the camp gate and immediately the energy shifted. There were soldiers, there were officials, there was noise, and before you could say anything, they were going through your bags. Everything, all of it. Making sure you hadn't brought contraband or alcohol or apparently common sense. Once you are cleared at the gate, they give you a number, your camp number. From that moment, that number was you. You are a number in a platoon, and registration had begun. Here's what the registration process actually looks like, because I'm going to walk you through it properly. First, you confirm your documents. They check everything. Your call-up letter, your credentials, your ID. Making sure you are exactly who the portal says you are. Then, biometrics. Fingerprints, photograph. You are now officially in the system. Then, your number tag. A physical tag with your number. Wear it everywhere. Don't lose it. It is your identity for the next 3 weeks. Then, platoon assignment. You're sorted, and you walk over to register with your platoon. I was assigned to platoon 10. I didn't choose it. The camp chose me. We don't question the camp. Then you fill your forms. Personal details, next of kin, skills, everything. You register or update your NYSC portal account with your camp information. And then, kitting. They hand you your full camp kit. Your khakis, your white tee, your vest, your jungle boots. The whole outfit. Everyone starts looking the same. And there's something strangely equalizing about that moment. You realize you're all in this together, whether you came from a city or a village. But what really got me, what I genuinely didn't expect, was the welcome pack. When they handed it to me and I opened it, there was this warmth to it. Information about the program, a timetable, a small note welcoming you to service. It sounds like a small thing, but after the exhaustion of the journey, the nerves of arrival, the chaos of registration, someone had actually thought about how overwhelming this was for us. I stood there for a moment, just holding it. It meant more than I expected it to. I got my registration slip, walked to the hostel, dropped my things on a bunk in a dormitory with women I didn't know yet, turned around and went straight back to finish the rest of the process. No rest. Camp had begun. Let me paint you a picture of a typical camp day. 4:30 a.m. The bugle goes off. I don't know who designed this schedule, but they clearly do not believe in skincare routines or human dignity. Parade is an experience. You are standing in field at sunrise in your white, still half asleep, and there's this whole routine: marching, saluting, counting, the national anthem. And if you step out of line, the soldiers are right there. They don't play. There was one day I was marching in completely the wrong direction from everyone else, and I just kept going. Like maybe nobody would notice. Like if I committed to it hard enough, reality would shift in my favor. But beyond parade, and this surprised me, the days were actually full in the best kind of way. I played volleyball. Udu, who has not been athletic a day in her adult life, was on a volleyball court at camp. And I wasn't even completely terrible. I mean, I was a little terrible, but I showed up. I dove for the ball. My team appreciated the effort even when the execution was questionable. And then there was Man o' War. If you don't know, it's military-style fitness and discipline drills, obstacle courses, physical challenges, team exercises. Your body will remind you of it the next morning. But when you complete something you thought you couldn't, there's a feeling that's hard to explain. You feel capable in a way you didn't before you started. The days were structured: skills acquisition, lectures, camp skill classes if you'd registered. Almost every hour had something, which honestly was good, because it didn't leave too much time to sit and miss home. And then there's the Mammy Market, the social hub of camp, where you eat, where you gist, where alliances are formed and kept. I genuinely made some of my best camp friendships. We bonded over suffering, and I wouldn't trade any of it. There were hard days too, days where the heat was unbearable and I was exhausted, and I missed home more than I expected to. But something shifts around week 2. You stop fighting it. You settle in. You find your people. And camp starts to feel like its own little world, with its own rules and rhythms. And somehow, you belong to it. One of the real highlights of camp was the swearing-in ceremony, the official moment when you're inducted as a corps member. And for our batch, it was not a small occasion. The governor of Abia State was present. The compound was extra clean that morning. Parade was sharper. Everyone was standing a little straighter. Officials were everywhere. And standing there in my khakis, with my platoon around me, reciting the oath, it hit differently. You're not just going through motions. You're committing to something. A year of service. A year of contribution to something bigger than yourself. And in that moment, despite the heat and the tiredness and the 3 weeks of everything. I felt proud, genuinely, quietly proud. Now, Cultural Carnival. I cannot talk about camp without talking about Cultural Carnival. Each group puts together a performance representing a Nigerian culture. And our group, we represented the Tiv culture. And nobody came to play. The costumes were real. The choreography was real. The energy in that crowd was something I can't fully put into words. People performed like they had been waiting their entire lives for that stage. And the TIFF performance? We won. We actually won. I was standing there with tears at the corners of my eyes, thinking, we did that. Together. People who barely knew each other 2 weeks earlier just poured everything into one performance and came out on top. That feeling, I'm keeping that. And then the social nights. Because camp had a whole entertainment calendar. And I need you to understand how seriously people took it. Miss B and Mr. Manchester. The camp was electric on those nights. People out of their bunks, gathered, cheering, debating their favorites. Contestants who clearly came to camp with routines already prepared. I respect that commitment entirely. Miss Petite and Mr. Slim. An entire category celebrating different body types, with contestants owning that stage in a way that was genuinely contagious. The confidence in that room spread to everyone watching. And then Mr. and Miss NYSC, the main event, the full pageant. By this point, you know everyone's names, you have your favorites, you are fully invested. The social nights took what could have been 3 exhausting weeks and turned them into memories you actually want to keep. And beyond the big events, it was the small things too. The friend who shared her food when I was too tired to queue. The night we stayed up in the hostel, talking and laughing until the lights out bell. The morning I ran further than I thought I could. Camp strips you down. No social media, no comfort zone, no performance. And what's left is just you. And you realize that you is actually pretty capable. Also, I want to formally apologize to Platoon 10 for the time I forgot the drill sequence and took up 3 people in my row. You know who you are. We don't have to talk about it, but I am sorry. The last day of camp, passing out parade, hit different. You've spent 3 weeks with these people. You've sweated together, complained together, eaten questionable jollof rice together. You've marched at 4 a.m. and worn carnivals, and danced and had midnight conversations about life and where it's going. And on the last day, they give you your posting letter, your PPA, your place of primary assignment, where you will spend the next 10 months of your service year. Reading and rereading, Some people are relieved. Some people have a very particular look on their face. You know the one. And then came the buses. People were loading up, calling out to friends, exchanging numbers, promising to stay in touch. The camp that 3 weeks ago felt like a punishment was suddenly the place you didn't want to fully leave. I got on my bus, found my seat, looked out the window as Umuna Bende started getting smaller behind us. And I felt everything at once. Relief that camp was over, yes. But also this weight that I didn't expect. Because that specific thing, those specific 3 weeks, with those specific people, was done. It was never going to be exactly that again. I went into camp not knowing what to expect. I came out knowing I can handle more than I thought. That sounds like something you'd put on a motivational poster, but I mean it with everything I have. NYSC camp is not easy, but it is not wasted time either. You come out with resilience, with stories, with bonds you didn't plan for and wouldn't give back. So if you're about to go, take the experience for what it is. Pack the right things, or drop a list below. Don't take yourself too seriously. Find your people quickly. And eat before the queue gets long. That's the real advice. Oh, and leave the heels at home. Please, learn from me. Leave them at home. That's my NYSC orientation camp story. From a cyber cafe in Lagos, all the way to a bus pulling out of Umuna Bende. If you've been through camp, drop your funniest or wildest moment in the comments. I genuinely want to read every single one. And if you're yet to go, tell me which state you're hoping for. If this video made you feel something, a like goes a long way. It really does help the channel more than you know. Subscribe to Tales Mori so you don't miss the rest of this year. The PPA story is coming. The CDS experience is coming. All of it is coming. And there is a lot more to tell.